On a fateful afternoon, as the California sun hid behind an ominous haze, a single tweet rippled through the digital ether. A cryptic observation from one of the world's most influential innovators. The message was as startling as it was brief. Wildfires are no longer just nature's doing. Look closer. Patterns don't lie. It was a message that would ignite debates, fuel conspiracy theories, and ultimately challenge the established narrative of a wildfire season already marked by record-breaking destruction. The skies over Los Angeles had taken on an almost surreal quality. The city, usually bathed in brilliant sunlight, was now shrouded in a thick veil of smoke. The haze transformed the iconic skyline into a ghostly silhouette, where once familiar landmarks were reduced to dark, indistinct shapes. The sun, normally a symbol of hope and warmth, had become a distant memory, its golden rays replaced by an angry red glow that set the heavens aflame. In neighborhoods far removed from the immediate infernos, the insidious smell of burning wood and scorched vegetation seeped into every home. Curtains hung limp in living rooms, their color dulled by the persistent orange hue that filtered through the windows. Even as families went about their daily routines, a palpable sense of dread had taken root, a foreboding awareness that nothing would ever be the same. Local news outlets were in a state of constant flux. Reporters, faces streaked with tears and soot, broadcast live from the front lines of a battle against nature itself. Helicopters circled above, capturing dramatic aerial footage of vast blackened forests, smoldering suburban enclaves, and highways choked with vehicles carrying desperate evacuees. The chaos was both breathtaking and heartbreaking. A relentless cascade of disaster that showed no signs of abating. Amid the unfolding calamity, one tweet managed to cut through the din. It was from Elon Musk, a man more often associated with pioneering ventures on Mars and revolutionizing electric transportation than with terrestrial catastrophes. His words, enigmatic yet forceful, suggested that the wildfires consuming California were not solely the product of natural forces. Wildfires are no longer just nature's doing. Look closer. Patterns don't lie, the tweet read. Almost immediately, the tweet became a lightning rod for public speculation. Social media erupted with responses, some dismissing it as the ramblings of an eccentric billionaire, while others believed it hinted at hidden truths. The timing was extraordinary. California was in the throes of its worst wildfire season in decades, with communities ravaged, evacuations en masse, and a sense of vulnerability gripping the entire state. For many, Musk's tweet was more than a mere observation. It was a rallying cry that challenged conventional wisdom. Critics argued that the devastation was clearly due to climate change, drought, and human error, while a growing number of voices began questioning whether there was an additional, overlooked element at work. The simple yet provocative call to look closer resonated deeply in a time when every ember seemed to carry the weight of unsolved mystery. As the fires advanced relentlessly, the human cost became increasingly apparent. Families were forced to make snap decisions, packing up decades of memories into suitcases, herding pets, and salvaging cherished heirlooms before the flames could claim them. The evacuation routes were gridlocked with traffic, stretching for miles as desperate citizens fled toward safety. Temporary shelters, set up in school gyms and community centers, filled quickly with individuals whose lives had been upended in an instant. One such family was the Garcias, who had lived in a modest home in the foothills of Ventura County for 3 generations. When the alarm sounded on that fateful day, they had mere minutes to decide whether to leave everything behind. In a tearful interview later broadcast on local news, Mrs. Garcia recalled, "It wasn't just our house that burned down, it was our history, our identity. Every photograph, every piece of furniture, every corner held a memory of our past. In minutes, it was all gone." For firefighters battling the Infernos, the stakes were equally high. Veteran firefighter Tom Delgado described the situation as a nightmare made real. The relentless Santa Ana winds carried sparks far ahead of the main flames, igniting new blazes with alarming speed. We'd barely get a handle on one fire when another would break out miles away, Delgado explained, his voice heavy with exhaustion and sorrow. His colleagues, too, were left questioning how a force of nature they'd known for generations had transformed into something nearly unmanageable. Yet, amidst the crisis, there were moments of profound humanity. Volunteers formed makeshift support networks for evacuees, providing food, water, and comfort in the midst of devastation. Community leaders organized prayer vigils, while local artists set up impromptu memorials to honor lost homes and lives. The resilience of the human spirit shone through the darkness, a small beacon of hope in a landscape of despair. As the fires continued to blaze across the state, Musk's tweet took on an even greater significance. What patterns could he possibly be referring to? Theories began to circulate rapidly on online forums and social media platforms. Some speculated that the answer might lie in the interplay of technology and nature, a connection no one had previously considered. A popular theory proposed that the wildfires were somehow linked to California's rapidly expanding telecommunications infrastructure. Over the years, urban sprawl had driven people into regions that were naturally predisposed to wildfires. Alongside this migration, an array of cell towers and data centers had mushroomed across these vulnerable landscapes. It was suggested that the very technology intended to connect and empower communities might be, in some subtle yet significant way, exacerbating the crisis. Reddit threads and blog posts began to feature detailed maps overlaying wildfire ignition points with the locations of cell towers and wireless networks. One self-titled data analyst presented compelling charts and satellite images, noting that a significant number of the fires had started near high-density telecommunications facilities. Although the evidence was circumstantial at best, it was enough to stoke curiosity, and for some, to provide a glimmer of a hidden truth. Even as scientists and environmental experts reinforce the narrative of climate change and human mismanagement, these alternative theories began to attract a dedicated following. In online discussions, the question, "Could technology be fanning the flames?" was posed repeatedly. Dissenters argued that it was simply a matter of coincidence, while proponents countered that the frequency and location of certain incidents warranted closer scrutiny. With every new data point shared and every theory advanced, Musk's single cryptic tweet continued to loom large, a symbol of the unsettling possibility that there was more at work than met the eye. Within hours of the tweet's appearance, major news outlets were abuzz with speculation. Television panels and talk shows invited experts from across disciplines, climate scientists, infrastructure engineers, and even former utility company executives to weigh in on the potential connection between technological infrastructure and wildfire behavior. On a widely viewed MSNBC panel, a renowned wildfire ecologist debated the merits of the emerging theory with a tech entrepreneur known for his work in wireless communications. "We've seen clear evidence that climate change has extended and intensified wildfire seasons," the ecologist stated. "But could there be an additional factor? Perhaps the electromagnetic fields or heat generated by these infrastructures play a role?" The tech entrepreneur, whose company had recently developed advanced monitoring systems for wildfires, countered, "Innovation sometimes reveals new challenges. We must remain open to every possibility, even if it forces us to rethink long-held assumptions." In parallel, online platforms like Twitter and Reddit became hotbeds for amateur sleuths and citizen scientists. Detailed posts emerged analyzing everything from the placement of wireless towers to the structural integrity of cooling systems within cell sites. One Reddit user compiled a series of satellite images, marking potential ignition zones and overlaying them with telecommunications maps. "Look at the pattern," they urged. "The overlaps are too consistent to be dismissed as mere coincidence." While some dismissed these posts as speculative, others saw them as the opening of a Pandora's box of hidden risks. A local fire chief in Northern California, whose voice carried both authority and the weight of personal experience, added his observations. "We've always battled wildfires caused by lightning or human carelessness," he explained in a televised interview. "But in recent years, we've observed fires igniting in areas where there's no obvious cause. It makes you wonder if something has changed in the landscape, something man-made." His testimony lent an air of credibility to the burgeoning theory, pushing more people to consider that perhaps the crisis was not as simple as nature's fury unleashed by climate change. Just when the debate seemed to be reaching a fever pitch, a dramatic twist unfolded. A whistleblower emerged from within the ranks of a major telecommunications company. For months, this individual had worked behind the scenes, witnessing firsthand the systemic negligence in maintaining wireless infrastructure in high-risk areas. In a now widely circulated interview with a respected national news outlet, the whistleblower, whose identity was carefully concealed for safety reasons, detailed disturbing practices that many had feared but few had publicly acknowledged. The whistleblower described a scenario that was both shocking and disturbingly plausible. "Our systems were never designed to handle the kind of stress we're seeing today," they revealed. Cell towers in remote and fire-prone areas were built with minimal safeguards. We knew the cooling systems were outdated, but cost-cutting measures meant that upgrades were always deferred. Documents, maintenance logs, and photographs provided by the whistleblower painted a grim picture, one where numerous reports of overheating equipment and dangerously neglected infrastructure were dismissed as low priority. In one particularly damning instance, technicians had noted that a cell tower in Ventura County was experiencing abnormal heat readings just days before a nearby fire erupted, a red flag that was ignored in the name of saving money. The news sent shockwaves through both the public and within the telecommunications industry. Major companies scrambled to issue statements, vehemently denying any direct link between their equipment and the wildfires. Yet, the whistleblower's evidence was compelling enough to force a broader inquiry. Activists and independent researchers seized upon the information, calling for an urgent investigation into safety protocols and maintenance standards. "This isn't just about profit margins. It's about lives," one activist declared at a community meeting, as residents demanded accountability from the companies responsible for maintaining the very infrastructure that had now become a potential hazard. Within days, another whistleblower emerged, a field technician who had worked on remote wireless towers for years. Speaking anonymously to a local journalist, the technician recounted a litany of neglected safety concerns. "We'd report issues of overheating and failing cooling systems time and again, but every report ended with the same response: 'We'll get to it when we can.' That's not good enough when you're dealing with a system on the brink of failure." Photographs of overgrown vegetation encroaching upon towers, alongside official reports highlighting equipment malfunctions, began to circulate widely, reinforcing the growing suspicion that the crisis was compounded by human negligence. As evidence mounted and the public's outrage grew, the debate quickly moved from online forums to the halls of government. Lawmakers in Sacramento, already reeling from the devastation wrought by the wildfires, found themselves under mounting pressure to act decisively. Constituents flooded local offices with calls and emails, demanding that officials hold utility companies and telecommunications providers accountable for their role in the unfolding crisis. An emergency session was convened in the state legislature, where impassioned speeches and heated debates underscored the urgent need for reform. "We have to ask ourselves," one legislator proclaimed, How many more communities must be sacrificed before we overhaul a system that is clearly broken? The session culminated in a bipartisan call for independent audits of all wireless infrastructure in fire-prone areas, along with proposals for stricter regulatory standards. The momentum even rippled out to the national level, where federal lawmakers began discussing the need for a comprehensive inquiry into the intersection of modern technology and environmental risk. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, eventually announced a sweeping investigation into the telecommunications industry's role in wildfire ignition. This move was heralded by many as the first tangible step toward systemic change, a recognition that the crisis was not merely an unfortunate consequence of climate change, but also the result of long-overlooked vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. The FCC's initiative promised audits, stricter guidelines, and, in cases of non-compliance, significant fines and operational shutdowns. The agency's action provided a glimmer of hope that future disasters could be mitigated through better oversight and innovative safety technologies. In the wake of the federal investigation and growing public pressure, a shift in the technological landscape began to take shape. Elon Musk, whose initial tweet had set off the chain of events, re-emerged with renewed purpose. No longer content to simply speculate, Musk began sharing updates that hinted at potential solutions. He introduced the world to a prototype developed by Tesla engineers, a solar-powered, fire-resistant communication tower designed specifically for deployment in high-risk areas. The design was nothing short of revolutionary. Constructed from advanced flame-resistant materials, the tower featured an integrated cooling system that could automatically adjust to rising temperatures. Sensors embedded throughout the structure were capable of detecting early signs of nearby fires, triggering automated suppression measures that could, in theory, halt the spread of flames before they grew out of control. We can't continue to build on yesterday's technology while facing tomorrow's challenges, Musk stated during a widely viewed online presentation. Innovation must be our shield against the unforeseen consequences of progress. The unveiling of the prototype sparked both excitement and skepticism. While many hailed it as a breakthrough that could redefine safety standards in wildfire-prone regions, others cautioned that a single technological fix would not be enough to address the systemic issues at hand. Nevertheless, the prototype became a symbol, a tangible representation of how the intersection of technology and environmental stewardship might forge a new path forward. Across California, communities began to rally. In neighborhoods devastated by the relentless flames, residents organized town hall meetings and grassroots campaigns to demand better safety practices from utility companies and telecommunications providers. Local leaders, emboldened by the national attention, pushed for practical measures that could save lives in future fire seasons. These included proactive vegetation management around critical infrastructure, regular maintenance audits, and community-based monitoring programs that leveraged local knowledge and technology. In one small town near Malibu, a community center was transformed into an impromptu command post. Volunteers, many of whom had lost their homes, coordinated with local firefighters and emergency responders, sharing real-time updates via social media and local radio. A retired school teacher, once a victim of a devastating fire, became an unlikely spokesperson. "This is more than just about technology or politics," she declared during one community meeting. "It's about protecting our families, our memories, our way of life. We owe it to ourselves to demand that our leaders and corporations put safety above profit." Local artists and musicians lent their voices to the cause as well. Murals depicting phoenixes rising from the ashes appeared on the sides of buildings, while community concerts and benefit events raised funds for both immediate relief efforts and long-term infrastructure improvements. These acts of solidarity, born from shared tragedy, underscored the resilience of communities determined to rebuild not just their homes, but the very fabric of their society. The culmination of months of investigation, public outcry, and political pressure came in the form of groundbreaking legislation. The Wildfire Infrastructure Accountability Act was passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, a historic move that set new standards for the maintenance and safety of critical infrastructure in fire-prone areas. The act mandated stringent protocols for regular inspections of cell towers and data centers, required the immediate replacement of outdated cooling systems, and enforced clearances for vegetation in the vicinity of wireless installations. The law also provided significant funding for research into fire-resistant technologies, incentivizing companies to innovate rather than cut corners. For the whistleblowers and independent researchers who had risked so much to expose the flaws in the current system, the legislation represented not just a victory, but a promise that their voices had not been in vain. In a rare moment of unbridled optimism, one former whistleblower remarked on live television, "This law is more than a set of rules. It's a commitment to the safety of every family in every community." Across the country, similar legislative efforts began to take shape as states with wildfire risks such as Oregon, Washington, and parts of the Southwest introduced their own versions of the accountability measures. The national conversation had shifted from blame to prevention, from reactionary policies to proactive resilience. In the months following the passage of the act, the landscape of California began to change. The scars left by the wildfires were deep, and for many the road to recovery was paved with both physical reconstruction and emotional healing. Communities embarked on ambitious reforestation projects, planting fire-resistant trees and restoring ecosystems that had been all but erased by the flames. Local governments, in collaboration with environmental organizations, rolled out educational programs to teach residents how to create defensible spaces around their homes, a crucial skill in a state where nature could turn treacherous in an instant. Elon Musk's vision of a future where technology and safety were seamlessly integrated became a focal point of innovation. Tesla's solar-powered communication tower prototype was deployed in pilot projects across several high-risk zones. Engineers worked around the clock to refine the design, integrating real-time data from SpaceX's Starlink satellites, which provided high-resolution imaging of terrain changes and potential fire ignition points. In a keynote address at a renewable energy summit, Musk explained, "Innovation is not a one-time fix, it's an ongoing journey. We must continually adapt and evolve our technology to meet the challenges of our environment." As the new towers were installed, communities monitored them with cautious hope. For many, these structures symbolized a future where accountability and progress were not mutually exclusive, a future where the lessons of the past would lead to smarter, safer infrastructure. Yet, even as tangible improvements emerged, the wildfire crisis left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of California and the nation. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the unintended consequences of rapid technological and urban expansion. Amid the celebration of innovative breakthroughs, there remained a persistent question: how many more hidden dangers were waiting to be uncovered? The revelations brought about by Musk's tweet and the ensuing investigations prompted a widespread cultural shift. Citizens began to scrutinize not only the safety of their wireless towers, but the broader systems on which modern life depended. Concerns ranged from aging water infrastructure to vulnerabilities in transportation networks, prompting calls for a comprehensive review of every facet of public and private systems. For many, the wildfire season had become a crucible, a time when the interplay of technology, nature, and human oversight was exposed in all its complexity. It was a reminder that progress, however brilliant, came with risks that demanded constant vigilance and accountability. As the wildfire season finally began to subside and the charred remains of once thriving communities were slowly reclaimed by nature, the story of that single tweet and the movement it sparked remained etched in public memory. In countless interviews, survivors, firefighters, engineers, and lawmakers recalled that moment when Elon Musk's words first broke through the chaos. For some, it was the spark that ignited a movement towards greater transparency and innovation. For others, it was a call to look beyond surface appearances and question the systems that had been taken for granted. Across news channels, documentaries, and even school curriculums, the wildfire crisis and its aftermath became a case study in modern resilience, a reminder that sometimes the smallest spark can ignite the flames of monumental change. "Look closer, patterns don't lie," the tweet had said, and indeed, those patterns revealed a deeper truth about the interplay between human ambition and nature's might. Years later, as California's forests began to heal and new fire-resistant communities took shape, the legacy of that turbulent season continued to guide public policy and innovation. The Wildfire Infrastructure Accountability Act had not only transformed the telecommunications industry, it had catalyzed a nationwide reevaluation of how progress should be measured. With advanced technologies now integrated into everyday infrastructure and a new generation of innovators committed to safety and sustainability, society was poised on the threshold of a more resilient future. In quiet moments of reflection, survivors and citizens alike would often recall that fateful period when the natural fury of wildfires met the relentless pace of modern technology. They remembered the stories of families forced to rebuild from ashes, the brave whistleblowers who risked everything to expose hidden dangers, and the tireless researchers whose data-driven insights had transformed skepticism into action. And above all, they remembered the power of one simple observation, a reminder that in a world defined by complexity, sometimes all it takes is a single spark to illuminate the truth. As dusk settled over a recovering California landscape, the air, though still carrying a hint of past smoke, was now filled with cautious optimism. The once divided debates about climate change, corporate responsibility, and technological innovation had converged into a shared mission to build a future where progress did not come at the cost of safety and where every new development was met with the scrutiny and care that could prevent another tragedy. In the words of a community elder, "We lost much that year, but from those losses we learned to see clearly. Now every ember reminds us to ask, to question, and ultimately to protect what is dear." This expanded chronicle is more than a narrative of wildfires or a saga of technological oversight. It is a call to arms for every individual who dares to look closer at the world around them. In our daily lives, the smallest observation can be the precursor to monumental change, whether it's questioning why an old system persists or demanding that our leaders prioritize safety over short-term gains. The legacy of that tweet and the ensuing wildfire crisis teaches us that vigilance is the price of progress. In boardrooms, in government halls, and in quiet conversations at family dinners, the lessons of that season have become an integral part of our shared history. They remind us that innovation, when coupled with accountability and ethical responsibility, can transform tragedy into triumph. At its core, the story of California's wildfire season and the mysterious tweet that set off a national conversation stands as a testament to the power of inquiry. It is a story that challenges us to look beyond surface appearances, to see the underlying patterns that shape our world, and to never accept that disaster is merely the product of fate or nature's whim. For every community that has been scarred by flames, for every family that has been forced to rebuild from the ashes, and for every mind that has been awakened by a simple yet profound observation, this narrative is a tribute. It is a reminder that our collective future depends on our willingness to question, to innovate, and to hold our systems accountable. So, as you reflect on these words and the myriad events that led to this pivotal moment in history, ask yourself, what patterns in your own life might be hiding critical truths? And in a world defined by rapid change, how can we all work together to ensure that progress is measured not just by the speed of innovation, but by the depth of our responsibility? Decades have passed since that tumultuous wildfire season, and the landscape of California has been irrevocably altered. Yet, the spirit of inquiry and the relentless pursuit of a safer, more sustainable future endure. Elon Musk's initial tweet, once dismissed by many as the musings of an eccentric billionaire, has now been recognized as a catalyst for a profound transformation. A transformation that redefined the relationship between technology, nature, and society. Today, when new challenges arise, people remember the lessons of that era. The story of wildfires, technological oversight, and the quest for accountability serves as a guiding light for future generations. It is a story of resilience, innovation, and the enduring power of a single observation to change the world.